Picture a hospital delivery room. A baby has just been born, and there's this incredible, almost tangible spotlight shining directly onto the mother and the child.
Right, as it should be.
Exactly. It makes complete sense. I mean, the physical toll, the emotional journey she's just been through, it is just monumental. So the focus naturally gravitates right there.
Yeah, it's really a matter of survival at that point. The medical staff, the family, I mean, the entire energy of the room zeroes in on that primary bond.
But I want you, the person listening right now, to shift your gaze just a bit. Like, look past the hospital bed. Look into the darker corner of that exact same room.
Right, to the father.
Yes, standing there, often perfectly quiet, is the new father. And, on the outside, he looks happy, maybe a little tired, but internally, he is carrying this massive, crushing weight that he feels he just isn't allowed to complain about.
Not to his partner, definitely not to his friends.
Right, and maybe not even to himself.
It's an image that really sets the stage for a completely silent crisis. Because we aren't just talking about a fleeting moment of stress or, new parent jitters.
No, we're talking about something much bigger.
Exactly. We are talking about paternal postpartum depression, or PPND. And the statistics on this are just staggering. 10% of new fathers experience this.
Wow, 1 in 10.
1 in 10. That is a massive demographic of men sliding into a very deep, very quiet abyss, completely unnoticed by the society around them.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because I imagine the very concept of a father experiencing postpartum depression might sound a bit confusing to some people.
Oh, absolutely. It's counterintuitive.
Right, because we associate postpartum entirely with the person who actually gave birth. But our mission today in this deep dive is to shatter that myth for you.
Yes, we really need to look under the hood here.
We do. We're going on a journey into the psychology, the really surprising biology, and the massive societal blind spots that trap so many men in this hidden crisis.
And we are going to explore not just the what of that 10% statistic, but the why. Like, if we connect this to the bigger picture, you'll see how deep-seated societal conditioning just completely collides with some truly surprising biological realities.
So let's start with the societal stuff. Why is that father standing silently in the dark corner to begin with?
Well, it starts with a trap.
Right. A trap set by a mantra that gets drilled into boys from, the time they can walk, which is men must be a solid support.
Yes, the solid rock facade. When a partner is pregnant and giving birth, the default expectation from family, from the media, from the culture at large, is that the man must be the pillar.
Right. The absolute foundation.
Exactly. He isn't allowed to be weak, he isn't allowed to be tired, and above all, he is expected to always know exactly what to do.
But wait, let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
Shouldn't he be a rock? I mean, the mother is physically recovering from a major medical event. Someone has to, hold the practical side of things together.
Oh, absolutely. But holding it together practically is very, very different from emotional suppression.
Okay, makes sense.
The issue isn't that he's fetching the ice chips or installing the car seat. The issue is the expectation of total emotional invulnerability. Because bringing a baby home from the hospital is a psychological earthquake.
A psychological earthquake, yeah. That's a great way to put it.
Suddenly, there is this massive looming financial pressure. There is the terrifying responsibility of protecting an incredibly fragile new life.
Yeah, the stakes are suddenly life and death.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But because of this pillar label, he isn't allowed to vocalize the paralyzing fear of, what if I mess everything up?
I was thinking about this, and it's kind of like being hired as the CEO of a massive company.
Oh, it's a good analogy.
Right. But you get zero training, you haven't slept in 3 days, and the board of directors, which in this case is like your in-laws in society, explicitly tells you on day one that asking for help is a fireable offense.
Yes. You just have to stand there and pretend you know how to read the balance sheets.
Exactly.
That is exactly the dynamic. And the contradiction there is what actually causes the damage. I mean, the transition to fatherhood is universally destabilizing.
Sure.
Your entire identity shifts overnight from just being someone's partner to being the ultimate protector and provider for a totally helpless human. That is traumatic and overwhelming.
But the societal script demands complete silence.
Complete silence.
Yeah.
And you cannot process an emotion you refuse to acknowledge. So they swallow the anxiety, which creates this perfect internal pressure cooker for a mental breakdown.
Right. And, if this were just a psychological hurdle, that would be tough enough. But we have to pivot here because the earthquake isn't just in their heads, it is literally in their blood.
This is where we really have to challenge our preconceived notions.
Yeah, because we are very accustomed to talking about the extreme hormonal shifts that women go through during and after pregnancy.
Well, everyone knows about that.
But men also undergo massive systemic hormonal transformations when they become fathers.
They do. And it's fascinating.
I have to admit, when I first looked into the sources for this deep dive, I was skeptical.
Oh, a lot of people are.
Because I always thought men's hormone levels were relatively static, aside from, a gradual drop in testosterone as they get older. But you're saying there is an acute, targeted shift triggered entirely by having a baby.
Yeah, that static idea is the common assumption, but no, this is an immediate evolutionary response.
Wow. Okay, break that down for us.
Let's look at the mechanisms. First, testosterone drops significantly in the early months of fatherhood.
Really? Just automatically?
Automatically. Nature intentionally dials down a man's testosterone to make him gentler, to increase his capacity for bonding, and to, lower his aggression.
Okay, so nature is basically trying to turn down the primal hunter-warrior dial and, turn up the nurturer dial.
Precisely. It's this beautiful evolutionary adaptation to ensure the baby's survival. The infant doesn't need a warrior right then. It needs a patient caregiver.
That makes total sense.
But, as with all biology, there is a physical cost. Testosterone is heavily linked to energy, motivation, and mood regulation in the male body.
Oh, right. So if it drops.
When it plummets suddenly, the man experiences a severe energy crash. His natural drive and buoyancy just vanish, which makes him deeply vulnerable to depressive states.
Man. And while his energy is dropping through the floor, his stress is skyrocketing.
Oh, absolutely.
Because according to the data, cortisol, which is the classic fight-or-flight hormone, spikes massively. And the mechanism here makes total sense. I mean, you have severe chronic sleep debt mixed with the endless sound of a baby crying.
And we have to remember, a baby's cry isn't just a loud noise. It is biologically engineered to trigger distress in adult human brains.
It pierces right through you.
It does. It's an evolutionary alarm bell that says, immediate danger, fix this right now. So the father's nervous system becomes perpetually locked in a fight-or-flight state.
I can imagine what that feels like. Your heart is racing, your muscles are tense, you're just hyper-vigilant all the time.
Yeah, constantly on edge.
Even when the baby finally falls asleep, you're probably lying awake staring at the ceiling because your body is just flooded with cortisol.
Exactly. You're running on fumes while your internal engine is revving in the red zone. And if that hormonal cocktail wasn't chaotic enough, there are also increases in estrogen and prolactin in the father's body.
Okay, hold on. Prolactin.
Yes.
Isn't that the hormone explicitly responsible for lactation in nursing mothers? Why on earth would a man's body start pumping out prolactin?
I know, it sounds totally counterintuitive, but prolactin does a lot more than just produce milk.
Okay.
In both men and women, it actually promotes caregiving behaviors and builds neural pathways for empathy.
Oh, wow. I had no idea.
Yeah, these hormones increase in men to help them attune to the baby's needs. But suddenly injecting a male body with elevated estrogen and prolactin causes severe mood swings.
So what does this all mean? We're looking at a guy whose energy is depleted, his stress is maxed out, and his empathy hormones are just throwing his mood all over the place.
Right.
So are we saying a father's body is physically rewiring itself to be a caregiver, and that biological construction zone is what causes the emotional chaos?
That's exactly it. And what's fascinating here is the absolute evolutionary irony of the whole situation.
How so?
Well, the very hormonal shifts designed by nature to make a man a better, softer, more connected father are the exact same mechanisms that strip away his emotional defenses and expose him to depression.
Wow.
Nature primes him to connect, but the cost of that priming is extreme vulnerability.
Let's hold on to that idea for a second, that nature primes him to connect. Because this brings us to a really painful reality about the household dynamic.
The symbiotic exclusion.
Right. The dad is hormonally wired, literally chemically altered, to bond with the baby, but when he tries to step in and do it, he hits a wall.
Yeah. We really have to look closely at the mother-baby bond in those early months. It is, by design, a powerful symbiotic relationship.
It's beautiful, but it's intense.
Very intense. It is a closed circle of survival and attachment. The baby relies entirely on the mother for food and comfort, and the mother's biology is entirely consumed with providing it.
But the reality of that perfectly natural, closed circle is that it often unintentionally pushes the father right out to the margins.
Yes, it happens all the time.
Men will often describe feeling completely redundant. They feel useless, like they are just a secondary assistant whose only job is to wash breast pump parts and just stay out of the way.
And I want you to imagine the psychological toll of that.
Hmm.
You have a mother who is pouring 100% of her physical and emotional attention into the infant.
Which is biologically appropriate.
Exactly, it's appropriate. But the result is that the husband experiences this intense, sudden isolation. He loses his primary support system, his partner, at the exact moment he is undergoing a profound psychological and hormonal crisis of his own.
I want to push back slightly, though, just to clarify. Is he really being pushed out, or is he just intimidated and stepping back because he doesn't know how to soothe a crying infant as well as the mother does?
That's a fair question.
Yeah.
It's often a bit of both, but the exclusion is a very real phenomenon. Think of it like a locked ecosystem.
Okay.
The mother and baby share a biological language. Through nursing, through scent, through deep hormonal synchrony.
Right, they are literally synced up.
Yes. And the father arrives ready to participate. His own hormones are urging him to bond, but he doesn't speak the language of that locked ecosystem. So he tries to soothe the baby cries harder. The mother instinctively takes the baby back because she knows she can fix it.
The emotional whiplash of that is just stunning. I mean, imagine being chemically altered to love and care for this child, but functionally feeling like a third wheel in your own home.
It is stunning.
Yeah.
And it is crucial for you, the listener, to recognize that this isolation is almost never an act of malice by the mother.
Oh, of course not.
She isn't intentionally excluding him. She's entirely consumed by the monumental task of keeping a newborn alive. But intention doesn't negate impact. The father is still left emotionally stranded.
So if society doesn't allow him to cry, and his body is flooded with all this stress and rejection, where does all that energy actually go? I mean, it has to leak out somewhere.
It does, and this is the camouflage.
Right. This is why that 10% statistic is so invisible to the rest of us. Here's where it gets really interesting.
Because we are looking for the wrong clues. When we hear the word depression, we picture the cinematic version.
Right, someone weeping in bed, verbalizing feelings of worthlessness, unable to get dressed.
Exactly. But male depression rarely manifests that way, especially not in a new father who feels obligated to be the pillar.
So what does it look like?
The symptoms of paternal postpartum depression are entirely camouflaged by behaviors that society either completely excuses or, shockingly, actively praises.
It praises.
Yes. Well, the first major symptom is anger and irritability. Instead of crying, a man might just start snapping over tiny, insignificant things.
Like the dog barking, or a dropped spoon, or a slight change in plans.
Exactly. And this is a textbook displacement of anxiety.
Why anger, though?
Because sadness and fear make you feel vulnerable. Anger, on the other hand, makes you feel powerful.
Ah, I see.
In a moment of absolute powerlessness, you can't sleep, you can't soothe the baby, you feel disconnected from your partner. Anger is a subconscious false attempt to regain control. The pressure cooker is full, and the emotion mutates into frustration.
Wow. And then there's escaping reality, specifically through overworking. I was reading the source that men will use earning money for the baby as an excuse to avoid the house.
Yes, this is where the praise comes in.
Right. We're looking for someone who is outwardly sad, but instead we see a guy working 60 hours a week, taking on extra shifts, claiming he wants to be a good provider.
And this raises a really important question about how we validate destructive behaviors in men if they align with traditional gender roles.
We applaud the overworking.
We do. We pat him on the back and call him a dedicated father, completely missing the fact that it is a desperate avoidance tactic. He is terrified of the crying, he feels useless at home, so he retreats to the office where he feels competent, respected, and in control.
It's the perfect disguise. He gets praised for the very behavior that is destroying his mental health.
Precisely.
And if they don't retreat to the office, they retreat into themselves. The source material notes a massive spike in addictive and numbing behaviors.
Yeah, drinking more alcohol or burying themselves for hours in video games.
Video games stuck out to me. Why video games?
Because a video game is a structured environment with clear rules where effort directly equals success.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Which is the exact opposite of a newborn.
Exactly the opposite of the chaotic, unpredictable, overwhelming environment of a newborn's house. It's just a way to numb the overwhelming feelings of inadequacy.
And the final stage of that camouflage is total withdrawal. going completely silent,
Yes.
distancing themselves emotionally and physically from their partner and child, cutting off contact with friends. They literally become ghosts in their own lives.
They shut down the system to prevent a total crash. And I want to challenge you, listening to this, to rethink your assumptions here.
Yeah.
When you see a new father exhibiting these behaviors, the short temper, the sudden workaholism retreating into a screen, the emotional withdrawal, these are not character flaws forming.
He isn't just being a jerk or developing bad habits.
No, these are the disguised distress signals of a very real, very severe medical condition.
Okay, so if we know how to spot the camouflage now, and we understand the biology driving it, what do we actually do about it? How do we drop a rope down into that silent abyss?
The first and most critical step is destigmatization and validation. The author of our source, who is a specialist in this, insists that PPND is not a weakness. It is a predictable medical, hormonal, and psychological reaction to one of the most massive life events a human being can experience.
So if you are all father listening to this and you're sitting in that dark corner right now, you are not a bad dad.
Absolutely not.
The fact that you feel angry or overwhelmed or desire to escape does not disqualify you from being a good parent. The advice from the experts is clear. Break the silence.
Find a trusted friend, look for a dad support group, or find a therapist.
Yeah. Admitting that you are struggling is actually the bravest, most protective step you can take for your family.
Because continuing to suppress it only ensures that the pressure cooker will eventually explode. And when it does, it damages the very family you've been working so hard to protect.
And for the rest of us, the friends, the family, the coworkers, there is a beautifully simple intervention. It's about changing the visiting routine.
I love this part.
Right. We all know the cultural script when you visit a newborn.
Yes. You walk in, you wash your hands, you coo over the infant, you tell the mother how wonderful she looks, you ask her how she is healing physically, and you ask what you can do to help her.
All of which is absolutely necessary.
Completely necessary. Do not stop doing that.
But then we need to add just one more step to that ritual. After you praise the baby and the mom, turn your body toward the dad. Look him directly in the eye, maybe put a hand on his shoulder, and ask him, "And you? How are you doing lately? How are you really?"
It sounds almost too simple to be effective, doesn't it?
It really does. But it works.
It does. Because knowledge is only valuable when it is applied. By shifting our cultural script, just that tiny bit, we begin to normalize paternal mental health. We give him permission to step out of the solid rock role, even if just for a moment.
It's a lifeline. Just one specific, genuine question can be the rope thrown down into that abyss. It tells him, "I see you. You are part of this transition too, and you don't have to carry the fear alone."
It punctures the isolation. And sometimes shattering that feeling of being entirely alone is the only catalyst needed to start the healing process.
Okay, let's take a breath and recap the journey we've been on today. We started by dismantling that toxic myth of the pillar, the absurd idea that fathers must be unfeeling, fully trained CEOs from day one.
Right.
We looked under the hood at the real, undeniable biology of fatherhood, the evolutionary drop in testosterone, the relentless flood of cortisol, the empathy-building estrogen.
The physical reality of it all.
Exactly. We unmasked the hidden symptoms of PPND, showing how male anxiety mutates into anger and overworking. And finally, we learned how changing one simple question during a visit can change a life.
It requires a complete paradigm shift in how we view early parenthood. We have to expand our circle of care to include the father, not just as a secondary assistant or a financial provider, but as a biologically and psychologically vulnerable participant in the creation of a new family.
Well said. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought, something to chew on long after this deep dive ends.
I'm ready.
We've established the science today. We know that a man's body, physically and hormonally, rewires itself to be a present, bonded, empathetic caregiver to his new baby. Nature is literally altering his blood to keep him close to home.
Right.
So if his biology is desperately trying to connect him to his child, how might our entire modern society, with its brief, sometimes non-existent paternity leaves and its rigid expectations for men to bounce right back to the office without skipping a beat, be actively fighting against human evolution?
Wow. That is profound conflict. We have biological hardware built for deep connection, colliding with an economic software that demands unbroken productivity.
Yeah.
And the fallout from that collision is the silent epidemic we've been discussing today.
It really makes you look at the workplace differently, doesn't it? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep asking those hard questions. Keep checking in on the strong people in your life, and keep questioning the obvious in your own world. We'll catch you next time.
Take care of yourselves and remember to ask, how are you really?